Hey everybody, it's Strict9 with Strict9 GP, and welcome back to another episode of my Out of the Park 22 playthrough with the Giants. So the season's over, the playoffs have been done, we've got the awards handed out for this 2021 season, and we're at the very first day of free agency. What I'm going to do this episode is kind of recap the end of season awards and how the playoffs went. I always like looking at that from other people's playthroughs. I think it gives you a good idea how the game rates the players, this version anyway, and might give you some idea of what kind of players you can expect to be the superstars or the breakout stars in the leagues. But won't spend a whole lot of time on that. But the big thing is, free agency. This is why I took over this team. A lot of money to play around with in free agency, more than I've ever seen with any team. As long as I've been playing this, I can't remember having the amount of money that I had as free agency started here. And as I've been setting up in previous episodes, it's because I just basically let everybody go whose contracts were either coming up at the end of 2021 or they had a team option and I could get rid of them. I know it was a lot of good players, a lot of players who meant a lot for this franchise over the years, but I just wanted to, the task here is to see how quick we can turn around a team that has this kind of contract situation. So that's what we'll do after I show you show you some of the awards and how the end of the season went here. But starting with the playoffs, I think this was kind of cool. Depends on, how you feel about either team. It was a repeat, though, of the 2017 World Series, and this time the Dodgers got revenge. They won it 4-2 over Houston. I'm kind of surprised that Houston made it again, but not surprised that the Dodgers did. They are just so stacked in this playthrough, offensively especially, but even pitching. They're just a great team. If you look at offensive performances from the big guys, I mean, Bellinger had an off year in this playthrough. I've seen him put up just incredible numbers in other playthroughs that I've got going. But Turner was back and had a good year. I mean, Muncy had a solid year. And then Buehler and Urias actually looked really good, just being a full-time starter. So they're just, and they put May in as closer too, by the way. But they're just such a good team right now. I don't think anybody's going to beat them probably for a while. I think it's going to take maybe a few seasons before they're no longer the top team in the National League. But then looking at the end of season awards, just a few of them anyway. If we start out here like with the Gold Gloves and Silver Sluggers, there weren't any Giants. One thing to note, though, I noticed that in the American League, you got some young guys here starting to show up, in awards and as having some of the better seasons offensively anyway, like this outfield particularly of Hayes, Buxton, and Kyle Tucker. I think that's a pretty good sign that maybe there's some youth and some turnover in the superstars in the American League. Relievers of the year went to Ryan Presley at Houston. He had a great season. This guy's not really on my radar. I didn't think he would have this kind of a year, but a 1.67 ERA, 40 saves, great season. Nationally, it went to David Bednar, another guy I wouldn't have bet making it. Kind of came out of nowhere. He was either, I don't know if he was traded or, he was picked up by Pittsburgh in a 3-team trade with San Diego there, and just had a good year. Brad Ham was second. Diaz, another good year from him, but he just didn't get the votes. And then rookies of the year, Andrew Vaughn for the White Sox. He had a full season, looked really good. Showing some power. I don't know with his defense, it probably won't matter at first, but I don't know if they're going to be able to keep him at in left field too much. I think they might have to move him to first. And then Christian Pack, I wish I could say this guy's. I need to research how to say this guy's name because I'm probably going to be saying it a lot. He's a young star really in this league. I've seen him in 2021 of Out of the Park Baseball just turn into a superstar. I think he's going to do it here. He's in the test run I'm doing with the Phillies. He's been perennially on the All-Stars and just a great player all the way around. Dusty Baker, American League Manager of the Year. Dave Roberts, National League. And then pitchers, I thought this was maybe a little bit of a surprise. Sometimes this game, the voting, I do allow AI to vote, but I also do some voting myself. Shane Bieber got it, even though he had an off year. I guess, you could say maybe the league had an off year. He led in ERA, but his record was 10-13. He led in wins above replacement, but I don't know. I think Garrett Cole, I would have given him the nod. He had 15 wins, led the league in strikeouts. So kind of a weird choice there. Giolito, he didn't have a great season. It was a down year really for American League pitching. And in the National League, went to Corbin Burns. He did have just a really solid season. Led in wins, strikeouts, wins above replacement. I think he was a good pick. Buehler was close, but didn't pick up as many wins or strikeouts. As expected, no Giants made the list. In the MVP, you got Bregman for Houston. And what I would have really considered too here, a pretty down year for offense. His wins above replacement was high, but his average and power were kind of down. Buxton got second. He had a great season in some ways, defensively certainly, but a 275 average, 212 strikeouts. Ops plus just a 109. I don't know. I guess you just have to chalk it up to an off year in general for the American League. In the National League, a little bit tighter race, but Albies got it over Acuna. Juan Soto was injured maybe a little bit, but he had a solid year. Ozuna, a lot of good offensive performances in the National League. No Giants getting any votes there, which is to be expected. I mean, we finished 72-90 and really struggled to do that. I think it's interesting, though. We started the year off competitive through June anyway, and I know it's early as I'm recording this. The Giants right now, I think, are still leading the National League West, if I'm not mistaken. Off to a good start. So hopefully if you're a Giants fan, the same thing that happened to us won't happen to the real Giants, because it just started falling apart in July for us. We didn't have a winning record, or even, we couldn't play at 500 from July on. But that brings us now to what kind of transactions we've done. And I'll just start kind of at the end of the season. I mean, one of the things that we did do is we did execute the contract option for Flores, because I felt even though he wasn't too good last year, his ops plus was below average, I still think he's defensively good at first, and if I can't get the replacement I'm going for, he might be somebody I can trade. He might be able to play off the bench in a couple positions, although I don't think he's going to be somebody who's going to be happy off the bench. If that's the case, he'll be a good trade option. But we let Longoria go, Cueto, Posey. Those option years didn't feel like it was a good idea to keep them. Now, in the case of Longoria, there was a buyout, but it was only $3 million, so not too bad. In terms of arbitration, we kept a few, but we even got rid of a lot of guys there, like Tropiano, who, was serviceable, 2.5 wins above replacement, did the best he could, in the situation that we were in, but got rid of just about everybody except Yastrzemski, who came on strong enough in the second half that I think he's valuable to the team, and it's only $3.6 million that he got. Dickerson and Slater I'm keeping. I wouldn't mind upgrades at both those positions. I don't think Slater is going to be much more than a bench player, even though he wants to be in the starting lineup. There were some things about his game that were good. I mean, he gave us a lot of speed, 26 steals, caught stealing just twice. Above average ops plus, 3.3 WAR. I don't think he's gonna match that. Now, he had a good September though. He was spotty, and I don't know what to make of him. His averages against the righties, are not that great. His splits against righties though were pretty good. So I think he's due a come down or a letdown for next season. We did keep Matt Whistler though. This guy really was one of the more solid options we had in the bullpen. So I'm glad to keep him. But then the big story as you go along, I did go through too and clear up the minor leagues. That's something I usually like to do before we get to free agency. But it's kind of hard to see with all these guys, bunched up here. But we have Brandon Crawford, DeSclafani, Longoria, Solano, who was injured most of the year, Brandon Belt, Aaron Sanchez, Jose Alvarez, whose ratings are not that good, even though he gave us a pretty full season out of the bullpen. Long story short, we got rid of just about everybody. And so where we're at in terms of the roster, it's pretty depleted. If you look at the starting pitching, for instance, I don't know where we go with this lineup. I don't know, or this staff. I don't know who I would say, outside of a few guys on the bullpen, who I'm going to be able to depend on next year. Tristan Beck, we gave a look late in the season. Maybe his ratings will improve, but OSA doesn't think much of him. Sean Shell, I'm just going to say it that way. He really started to tank the second half of the year. I don't know what he's going to give us. He might, like if I changed his position to bullpen, he gives you a little bit more. I don't think he's ready to start full-time, however, in the league. Sheffield, I traded, who did I trade for him? Alex Wood, who had a great season with Cincinnati, finished with 12 wins. Just, a great comeback for him, really. And he is going to be a free agent, but I don't think he's going to get the money. Well, he won't get it from us, but he might get it from some other teams. But I'm still hoping Sheffield can develop into a maybe a fifth starter and be good there. And Logan Webb, I think he's now a 3-star pitcher. I don't like his personality, but of the starters we have remaining, he's the best. But that's what we're up against there. That's eight pitchers we have available. I usually like to go with 13, and we've got just very few options even coming up out of the minors. I mean, Frisbee, I called him up from AA to AAA. I don't think he's going to be ready, but he may get a look in spring. Barager, who pitched a little bit for us last season, but looked bad. Luckily he looked better in the minors, so he might be okay. But we really need to improve in pitching. Offensively, I think we've got a little bit of a better story there. I think Joey Bart's going to get the starting spot coming out of spring, or at least going into spring. I think he had a decent September when I called him up. Flores, again, if we don't get a first baseman in free agency, he might be okay there. But it's the middle of the infield I got to improve on. Dubon had a decent year overall, but he was just not the player he started out to be. I don't really want to go with this guy as a starter either, but the outfield I might be able to deal with. I think Blankenhorn, for instance, he's rated decent at left field. He might give Dickerson a run for his money. I don't know. But I think Blankenhorn, actually, you could put him at third or first. Tommy LaStella at third. He gives you a few positives. I mean, his average is good. He doesn't strike out a lot. Defense is not as great as I'd like to see at third, but I would love to upgrade him as well. But the dilemma is you can't upgrade at every position, and that's the problem too with the setup of the San Francisco Giants team. You got a lot of money to play with, but you also have to give up so many position players to get to that point. But what does that give us, though, in terms of the front office? Well, right now we've got $78 million for free agency, but that isn't where we started, because that's taken account of a couple of offers we already have out there. And so now I'm going to go ahead and jump over to that and show you what we're looking at so far. Now, whether this will come true, don't know, but we do have Freddie Freeman offered, and we do have Trevor Bauer offered. Now, ordinarily, I wouldn't put a lot of money in. I'm a pretty conservative player. I wouldn't put $30 million into a player, even if Trevor Bauer's numbers, but the goal here is to get this team turned around as soon as we can. So I've given him an offer a little under $30 million a year for 6 years, and I've given Freeman an offer of $20 million for 5. So if they take that, I'm fine, but I really want to make sure or just see what happens with these guys before I proceed with any other picks. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sim ahead and just see if we get any kind of Seth Ellage. I forgot. He's going to be back in the he'll be back healthy by the time spring training rolls around. I still think this guy's got a good shot at being a decent player in the bullpen. I think he may be a setup guy, maybe a closer if we can't get any other options. But let's see if we go ahead a couple here. So I also had a couple of personnel things to get taken care of. So I'm really wanting to see what kind of reaction we're going to get out of those guys. Wow, so that was quick. So that was really quick. So we got Freddie Freeman and Trevor Bauer already coming in. Now we're going to lose the draft picks. I get that. We got Freddie Freeman, so we signed him. I really like this contract. I know he's 32. I don't know how much he's going to give you. He's got a player option there at the end of the 5 seasons. So if he's still playing well, he may even drop out. But $20 million, I think the guy is still, even though he's coming off an off year, his ratings are still great, especially against right-handed pitching. I really hope that he's going to give us at least 2 seasons like he's capable of and always been capable of. Now, we got another compensation here for Trevor Bauer, but $29.5 million, I think that's a great deal. Even though his numbers weren't that good last year, I mean, this guy's definitely the best pitcher out there. So, like I say, ordinarily I wouldn't go for those kind of players because they ask they ask that much, obviously, and it just really leaves your team thin in some cases. But this was a special case. We had $120-something million, to go out and chase free agents with. We've still got 78. So now it comes down to a few things that I want to do. I definitely want to fill in the staff around Bauer. I don't think I want to waste too much of that money by just, not building up the team around him. So I want at least one more good player, good pitcher. The way I'm looking at it, I can get Sheffield and Webb in those 4 and 5 spots, I'm thinking. So I need another 2 or 3 starter. So let's go see what's available at that level. And this is really where a guy like, in some ways, a guy like Alex Wood, if I knew he could repeat what he did last year, would come into play, because that would be those numbers would be great to have in that third or fourth spot. Now we got Syndergaard coming off a down year. Definitely not the player that he was a few years ago. At least the way this game has him going. He's much better against righties than lefties. He still has good stamina, but injury-wise, he was out, a lot leading into last year. I don't know if that impacted him too much. But, is he going to get back to the way he was, say, in 2016 or, 2018, when, again, he was injured for a while? That's the thing that scares me about Syndergaard. I think, his injuries. But, there's not much to choose from until you get down here to these 3-star guys. And of the 3-star guys, who would be the best option? Robbie Ray has always scared me because of his control and movement. It's always been, last few versions of this game, he's going to give up a lot of home runs, and he's a strikeout pitcher. His FIP and ERA plus, man, the ERA plus there's pretty rough from last season. His FIP was a little bit better, but not by much. This guy struggles. I don't know that I want to gamble on him. Scherzer, of course, is still wanting that money. He had a decent year last year, but he's 37. Stroman, interesting, but he had a good year, solid year with the Mets, but I'm not sold. I like power pitchers. I don't want to give this guy $20 million. Corey Kluber, I think he's too injury prone at this point. So man, we're starting to run out of it. Now, what I could also look at here is trading block. So you got Darvish and Sonny Gray. Sonny Gray, typically, his contract is pretty good. He really had a struggle last year, though, with Cincinnati. Let me make sure, his ERA plus, of course, was low because he had an ERA of 5. His FIP was a little bit better, but, not the kind of season he was having like in 2019, 2019 and 2020. Kind of thought he was back on track. Last year he didn't look like it. Splits wise, he'd look better from August through October, if that's any consolation. And his, I like his contract. So let me see. I think, if I'm looking at the guys out there, I still like him better than some of the other options. Let me see if I trade for him, see what they would want. So they want Logan Webb or Yastrzemski. Which Yastrzemski I wouldn't really mind. 31 years old. He's really only going to hit, well, primarily from the right side, but he just had such an off year last year. He's the kind of guy I just don't know if he's going to meet those ratings. And then, that would leave us really, Dickerson, Blankenhorn. Defensively, I don't know that they would fit in, right field. Flores, would he go right? Man. Now, Austin Slater could play right. He's a very popular player, though. Extremely popular locally. I wonder if there's anybody else I could get them interested in. What if I go Dickerson, for instance? No, they want Yastrzemski. And you know what? I'm okay with that, I think. That just gives us a hole we got to fill a little bit. I know that. Of course, it lost our goodwill with the fans. We're still up there pretty good, though, in fan interest. So now, Sonny Gray, that makes me feel a little bit better about the rotation. Even though he had an off year, I think he can have a better year with us next year. So now let's work on the offense. So what do we have? Free agents, we still have $71 million. So now we're going to need some outfield help. I'm going to look at, we got Mazzara, who's wanting a lot of money, coming off a good year. I don't know that he's going to duplicate that. He is a lefty bat, rated quite a bit better than Yastrzemski, but not by much. I may wind up regretting this because he is, there's nobody out here better than Yastrzemski much. Let me take a look then at player trades on the outfield. You got Joey Gallo. Now, Trey Turner would be interesting. I don't like his defense. Will Myers. Not a whole lot right now in terms of outfield. I mean, Merrifield, the way he's rated, he always puts up some great numbers. I mean, his contract's generous. He's got a team option that's okay. I mean, coming off a fairly solid year, but I think he was injured quite a bit. He was injured a lot. All told, 3 months. But I do like having the option of some depth in there. And if this is somebody I can get for little or nothing, take your pick. I mean, there's a lot here that I could get rid of, to be honest. I think I can afford to give up Menez. I know that's kind of a gimme. I don't know what kind of look they'll get. So we got some fan increase back out of that. So Merrifield, I would probably either put it right or second. Either one. So let's go back and see what we got out here. Arenado's available. $25 million. His offense is not going to be what it was, of course, at Colorado. I like his defense. I would, the only way I would do him is if I could get him for shortened contract. I don't think I'm going to get him for that. So now let's look and see what else we got. I typically, Angelton Simmons, I really like him. Mainly because of that defense. And OSA likes him offensively, for what that's worth. I know he's not going to give you offense, but, the pitching, we could definitely use some help there. I mean, I might see if I could get this guy for 4 years, $11.5 million, with that last one being a player option. So you know what? I'll take that. That would be huge because I think, LaStella and then either Merrifield or Slater, however that works out, I think they could round out the infield pretty decently. And now, man, still got to spend some money. Now Correa was out there, but I like his offense. But I would rather have I really would rather have Simmons' defense than that offense. So let's take a look now at relievers, because I would like to have, not much out there. Iglesias, he's won a lot of money. Neris, David Robertson, Colon, man, he's coming off a pretty off year for him. Just a 2-pitch pitcher, and his 2 pitches aren't as dominating as they really need to be, I think, to be a closer. But I mean, I'm at a point where with the pitching staff, it's just, now we've got a pretty decent rotation, I guess you could say. I mean, Trevor Bauer, Sonny Gray, one more pitcher would help. I'd feel a little bit better about in terms of the starting rotation, but I think we really need some relievers right now. No closers really available. Iglesias, no injury problems. I mean, he's definitely been a closer there for a couple seasons and really coming off a good year. I mean, if I could get him maybe for $6 million for 2 years. Okay, so now we're still at $50 million. It's crazy. So let's see if we can get Neris. Somebody in this 3-star range would be okay if, like Justin Wilson, who would be a good option against lefties. Who do I have right now against lefties? Jake McGee, who's really struggled. He had an off year. So let me take a look and see what... go to relievers again. Let me see what Justin Wilson would take. It says $4 million. I would go 2 years at $3 million. And he's fine with that. So I want to take a look. I can't believe the amount of... look at the offers here, and it's crazy. I've never had that much money to play around with. So let's make sure there's no batters here that I'm leaving out. I know that it would be nice to have somebody solid in that outfield, but I'm just not seeing it looking through here. Maybe Corey Dickerson, although with Corey Dickerson, I think you're still looking at a guy who's, he's kind of like the Dickerson I already have. He's so defensively. He's only rated at that one position. He's coming off a fairly off year for him, really 2 off years in a row. I'd like a righty bat. And like Avisel Garcia. Trey Mancini. Don't like his ratings, but he can play right field. And I don't like his position ratings, I mean. Fielding wise, he was okay in right field, but he wants to be in the starting lineup, but he's not really asking for a lot of money at all. Could bring back Joe Panic, who, as a bench player, didn't look too bad last year for Toronto. Eddie Rosario. Solano was a disappointment for me, but I do think he could be a good bench player. He's not going to be a starter, though. So let me take one more pass. I mean, do I want to go Mazzara at $15 million? Something about him just worries me a little bit. I don't think he would be a true replacement even for Yastrzemski, and I'm paying him a whole lot more. I mean, the only one left would be Arenado, and if I could do Arenado for like 4 years, a vesting option at 22. Now he's gonna get what he's wanting there, I think, from someone. So I don't think I'll go for that. Kind of back there at Trey Mancini again. I mean, I think he could, especially at that money. I think he'd give me some good depth, and then that way I could I could go back to the starting pitchers and see if we got anybody left. Now, Syndergaard, for instance, would he be worth picking up, even though he's probably going to be injury prone? Would he take a 3-year deal at that money? All right, he will. So we got $33 million, and we're still, gosh, and look at what we picked up. So I'm going to sim ahead here. We're at the Hall of Fame voting. I may go through that. It's something I've done every once in a while here, and I'm always going to vote for Abreu. I'm going to put Bonds in there. I think his numbers, what can you do at this point? I'm going to put, and this is going to have some guys, for whatever reason, who may not be on the actual ballots, but I noticed that sometimes when you first start a playthrough, you'll see some guys maybe hanging out there from previous teams. I always like going with Tim Hudson because I think he was a solid starter for multiple seasons, had some injury problems, but put up a good career for that generation. I'm going with Jeff Kent, even though he's not a very popular player. Obviously going with David Ortiz. I'll go A-Rod. I'm going Jimmy Rollins. Hey, I'm a homer when it comes to the Phillies. He was a great player. I always like going with Sheffield. Another one. I know he's not very popular. Omar Vizquel, I'm going to put in there. I'm going to put Billy Wagner as well, and that's how I'm going to go. I know I did leave off Manny Ramirez, but that's my ballot, and I'm sticking to it. So let's get to the winter meetings and see Simeon, I may have pitched him a contract earlier, but I think I'm going to move on from him at the moment. He didn't have a really good season last year. He has come down quite a bit from the 2 years ago when he was with Oakland. So we got a trade proposal here, a shortstop, a right fielder, pretty decent right field prospect. But they're wanting Slater. I don't want to give him away yet. I think he does have. I think he does have some upside as a bench player, if nothing else. He can start so many different positions. I'm really hoping that we get some of these guys to come here. So far, it looks like, they favor the offers. Correa wound up going to the Angels for a little over $20 million. Not too bad. Stroman went to the Nationals. Chris Bryant, $20+ million a year. Don't know that you're going to get that value. So any other big ones here? I don't see it. So I'm going to take a look too now at the pending offers. They all favor. Still got $33 million to play around with. But I want to see who's on the trading block. Pitching wise, still some of the same guys. And I really want to find out if I'm going to get Syndergaard there. And then batters. Garrett Cooper would be interesting again if I didn't get Freeman, but I don't think I need him now. Will Myers, his personality ratings are pretty bad, so nothing much here. I think I could probably pick up whatever I'm looking at here in free agency. So still wanting to see if any of those guys are going to sign, and we're already at the Rule 5 draft. So for the heck of it, I'm going to see what the draft pool looks like, and we'll look at batters first. Not too good. That's one of the things I'm noticing, whether it's something that changed with this new version or not. You're not seeing a whole lot of sleepers in the Rule 5 like I used to see in previous versions. Any pitchers here worth looking at? Pedro Avila. I mean, this is a guy who maybe in another season or two would be ready, but he's not ready right now. Miguel Romero. Not seeing anything there either. And the thing that I always like to do is make sure I don't have any Giants that are out there. And this is what I do. I basically go to default, filter it by team, make sure all players are chosen, and then I'll make sure what I've got: Eugene, Richmond, Sacramento, San Jose. So I want to make sure that no big players are out there for the Giants, starting with, what is it, Eugene. So we'll go down there to them. I mean, some of my shortlisted players, but guys who like Canario, who's still a ways away from the majors. I'm just going to have to hope that they don't get picked. And so we had Richmond and then San Jose. I'm going to go pretty far down here to find Richmond. Not much showing there. I mean, Santos, another one. He's shortlisted, but he's he had a tough year at Eugene, and he's at the best 2 years away. So I'd have to, hope I don't lose him. But if I do, I can deal with that. Who's the other one now? We got Sacramento and San Jose. All right. So for Sacramento, now you get a little bit more. Now you get a little bit more. Well, I say that it gets a little tougher, but I don't foresee me bringing him up necessarily. And then some of these guys here, I can let them go if they have to. And then last would be San Jose, way down there in low A. And I only have a couple, so no big deal there. So let's just continue to the Rule 5 draft, and I'm going to start it. But I'm just not going to pick up anybody because there's nobody here that's really going to help me. And that's what I'm looking for. I mean, I'm looking for somebody right now to turn this around. So I'm going to keep Simmons ahead because I want to make sure I'm getting some of these contracts signed. So I got Justin Wilson. Again, I think he will be a good specialist to have. So that pitching rotation is looking a little bit better, especially if we get Syndergaard. And I wouldn't be surprised. Now we got Simmons. So I wouldn't be surprised if somebody comes back and says, hey, you're not, you're going to have to raise your contract offer. Maybe it'll be Syndergaard. Who knows? Yep, it's one of these guys. It's Iglesias. At this point, I'm in so far. I'll definitely go $6.5 million. That's not enough of a report or enough of an upgrade to really feel too bad about. So that leaves us with Syndergaard, Mancini, and Iglesias out there. And I'll probably just end the episode at the Hall of Fame results. And then depends on how these last offers go or not. So we got Semien going to St. Louis. Robbie Ray went for just, $14 million a year. Mazzara wound up going for a good yearly salary, but a long-term deal. I don't know that I'd like that. Cincinnati, Tyler Naquin, or however you say that. He's another lefty. He would give us some depth. I think Trump may be somebody I'll need, though, at this point. Cancel that. So I'm gonna reject that. I think I could probably find something better than that out there. All right, so we got Syndergaard, another third-round draft pick, and we got the interest. And the interest has got to be through the roof now. It's at 100, and we still got $30 million to play with. Outfield is not as strong as I would like it, but I still feel I can play around with that. Now pitching though, that looks a little bit better. I really like that setup. I'd probably put Syndergaard as the second starter, but wow. And then if I get Iglesias, I think that's a pretty good pitching staff. And then on the lineup side, defensively, guy like Simmons. Of course, Freeman would be as long as he plays to his ratings, he's going to be a good one. Bart. There's still some questions here, but I don't want to go all in and just get rid of everybody. But now I want to look at the free agents. So Iglesias is the last one, and I want to sim ahead, see where we're at, see what's available, and then we will. Yeah, Brandon Crawford, still a 3-star player. He got a decent contract out of Miami, 3 years, $10.3 million. I figured that we would have, and now Iglesias favors our offer. So I figured we would have a fan drop when he goes. He's definitely one of the favorites there. So I think we're going to be still waiting on Iglesias here at at the Hall of Fame results, and you got A-Rod and Ortiz going in. Bonds, Clemens, Schilling all dropped. All right, so now where does that leave us in terms of free agents out there? So we still got Baez, who I really don't need at this point. Miyazaki, who's an international, and great defense at now he's something to think about here. Good speed, good defense. He's going to be adequate against right-handed pitching. Might be somebody to think about. Soler, too much money, I think, for really a pretty one-dimensional player. I don't know that I want to just go for him with Starlin Castro. Can play second, third, coming off a really decent year with Washington. But I gotta tell you, just to keep it going. Man, where did the guy go? Did I just lose him? I was probably set. Yeah, Miyazaki. My scout thinks he's a 2.5 star, but he's still young. I like his defense at center, and that's one of the holes that we definitely have, because Dubon can play the corners pretty well. Well, he can play center okay. I'll think about that offline. But that may be one more pickup I go with, just to strengthen that outfield, and then I wouldn't mind having some more depth at pitching, especially if I can't get Iglesias. But right now, this is really shaping up to be one heck of a turnaround in terms of the team that we put out there. Look at this. I mean, look at the going to the off-season center is where I think it's going to really look different, even though we only picked up 1.7 wins above replacement. But look at the signings here. This is just crazy. Simmons, Bauer, Merrifield, Freeman, Syndergaard, Mancini, who's not on there, Wilson, who's not on there. A lot of good pickups, I feel. And what we lost, I mean, Crawford's probably not going to repeat that season. Yastrzemski, I like the guy, but I don't think his numbers are going to be something that we can't replace really at this point. And then the rest, I mean, Tropiano, Moranta, those guys just gave me really more than I could have expected last season. So that's going to do it for now. I will finish out the rest of the off season. I'll go through spring training more than likely, and then we'll start up the season next episode. Thing we got to worry about now is making sure this team stays healthy. But I can't imagine us not being competitive now with this team. But as always, thanks for watching, and I will see you next episode.